Hey friends, Zolgar here with some exciting news. I'm going to be at SAC Anime in Sacramento, California, September 2nd through 4th, Rose City Comic Con in Portland, Oregon, September 9th through 11th, and Salt Lake FanX in Salt Lake City, Utah, September 22nd through 24th. I won't have a table, but I will have some buttons that I can hand out if you come find me. I'll be hanging out with my friend, the Peculiar Magpie, at his booth selling cool props and nerdy art pieces. I will post pictures and booth numbers on our social media during each show.
Welcome to Two Idiots and a Dog, Idiots Unleashed.
And remember, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, stay hydrated.
Why does it sound like we're ending the episode?
I don't know. It sounds better when someone Scottish says it.
What the fuck?
Sorry, Chatsunami.
Sorry. I'm Grim.
I think I'm Zolgar. Am I Zolgar?
You can be Zolgar today.
And Kaiju is probably off sulking because we're not paying attention to her.
Just a quick warning, this is an uncensored podcast, so you may hear adult language or other content not suited for children, the workplace, church, or, frankly, human consumption.
This week, our topic is the Clone Wars. That would be submitted by our friend Delinquent Behavior over on our Discord server. If you have an idea for a topic for us, you can let us know on Discord or social media, but you can only vote in the topic poll on Discord.
Now, stand back.
Because the idiots are about to be unleashed.
So, this is basically just going to be an hour of us angrily ranting, right?
A little bit.
So, God, where do we start with this clusterfuck?
Okay, let's start with the big one. The Clone Wars is two slave armies of sapient creatures fighting each other for the machinations of one man.
Yeah, I mean, the droids have thoughts, feelings, emotions. They've displayed this numerous times in canon. And the clones were literally created to fight and die. And all of this was put into motion by Palpatine, who's definitely not your friend-a-teen.
Get out.
I can't. You're blocking the door.
There's a window.
It doesn't open.
So?
I will hurt you.
Not as much as it'll hurt you to go flying through the window.
Not as much as it would hurt to sit down and actually think about the Clone Wars. Oh, wait. I mean...
let's start with the battle droids. The battle droids, I mean, okay, they're not exactly the most intelligent of life forms,
yeah,
but...
They're not going to be winning the Nobel Prize for anything.
Numerous times throughout the Clone Wars, we see the droids express personality. They express emotion. They have fears. They question things.
I mean, even before the Clone Wars, Episode 1, where the sabers ignite in the smoke, and they just go, uh-oh. Because they know they're screwed. Those are Jedi.
Yeah. I mean, we could have a whole nother rant on how droids are treated in Star Wars in general.
Yeah. Then you apply it to the droid army, and it gets even fuckier.
Yeah. And then, like I say, you also toss in there the the clone army.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
a complete shit show.
And especially the fact that if a clone deserted, he was a traitor who was supposed to be executed.
Mm-hmm.
So these are people that were grown in a lab. They have thoughts, they have feelings, they have emotions, they love, they care.
Don't forget, they didn't even have names.
Yeah.
They had numbers.
They had numbers, and some of them got nicknames.
Yeah, they gave themselves nicknames, but officially, they were just a number.
And how many of the Jedi refused to call them by their nicknames. Just only acknowledge
many.
Yeah.
And the clones were treated as disposable by both the Republic and way too many of the Jedi. And I don't mean in that, well, soldiers die, it's war way. I mean, there were Jedi that would just send them in to die by the dozens and didn't care. And at least one who actively wanted them to die.
Yeah. I mean, within the Jedi, you had a few who respected the clones, but they understood that the clones were soldiers and might have to die. Yeah. But they treated them more like a master chess player treats a pawn.
Yeah, Yoda,
Obi-Wan,
Mace, like a lot of people are like, oh, Mace really didn't like the clones. No, that's not true. Mace carried himself with that kind of detached anger that he needed for his saber style.
Mace was a general. Mace was someone who, he was a warrior, and, I mean, Mace was not at all afraid to go on the battlefield himself, either.
Mace was one of the few Jedi that was actually suited to command in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yoda's another one. Honestly, Kenobi as well.
Anakin was not.
Anakin was not, although Anakin was one of the ones that treated his clones like people.
Well, that's part. The way Anakin treated his clones is part of why he was not suitable to be a general, or suited to be a general in the Clone Wars, because.
And yet, it was also part of what made him so effective.
Oh yeah, it was, but like I say, Anakin is someone who would put his life on the line for his clones. Yeah. Anakin would not ask his clones to do something he wanted himself to.
And that's part of the reason why they were so effective.
That's the reason they were so loyal to him, the reason they were so effective. But as a leader in war, that is not the way you need to be. As a leader in war, unfortunately, you have to sometimes respect the fact that you are not as disposable as your soldiers.
Anakin was a warrior, not a general.
Yeah.
Hell of a warrior.
Oh, he was an amazing warrior, and he was an amazing, squad leader type.
Yeah.
He was the one who would lead his men into battle, charging the front lines.
Yeah. Kenobi would as well if the situation warranted it, but he was definitely more of a traditional general in the way he handled his troops, but he was not afraid to embrace the fact that they were people, but that he also recognized they were soldiers.
Yeah. He was the one that, he really recognized that they were people, they were humans. He did not treat them as disposable soldiers. He treated them as soldiers who, if they had to die, their death had to be for a reason. It had to actually further the cause. Yeah. Not just, we want that hill, so we're just going to keep sending bodies at it until we finally take that hill.
Or sending them in to die without even a clear objective.
Yeah. Well, that's...
I mean, the fight on what was it? Umbara? I remember it being close to, the word Umbra, but it wasn't, so I think it was Umbara. They called Skywalker back and put in a dude who, we're going to take that, and you're going to march right there to take it. I mean, I guess technically there was an objective there, but...
Yeah, there was...
Even if you'd had a crack team of the most elite soldiers, a squad of Jedi could not have taken that objective the way he was sending those troops in. A squad of Jedi, a platoon of Jedi, would have been annihilated trying to take that objective the same way he was using those clones.
Yes, I believe that was the Battle of Umbara. Let me look on Wikipedia here. So yeah, a quick plug to Wikipedia, because that's where we're going to get a lot of our information this episode.
Yeah, and God, I still hate that fucker. He died too easy.
That was General Pong Krell, right?
Yep. Fucker.
Yep. I mean, he's listed here as Republic traitor, so yeah.
Because he wasn't even trying to achieve his objectives. He just wanted to kill clones.
Yeah, it's... The way he approached that battle was... Honestly, it was the way... Okay, we're gonna jump universes here a little bit. But it was the way orcs approach a battle, or the way you would approach the battle with a swarm hive mind like the Tyranids.
Yeah, it's because the individual bodies don't matter. And they talked about how his tactics worked and they were efficient, and I'm just like, bullshit. How has this man won any battles?
By throwing more bodies at them than there were droids to cut them down.
And you would see this on the other side as well, where, I mean, the droid commanders were droids. They were programmed to be like, yeah, just send them in. It's fine. We have more. But Dooku, Grievous, the fucking spider guy, the Techno Union, they just sent them in. I want to point out here that at no real point does Star Wars acknowledge any of this. We get a couple passing nods to how fucked up the clone troopers are in the final seasons of Clone Wars and in Bad Batch, but we don't get anything on the droid army, really.
The closest we get on the droid army is, I think it's an episode of Rebels where they encounter basically a command droid that was supposed to be decommissioned but never was, and is still in the mind of this war is still happening.
Yeah.
And I want to point something out about the command droids. Even them, though, okay, yeah, it was their programming, but they should have stopped and realized that efficiency would be to use their droids tactically, not just column after column after column of the B-1s marching in.
Yeah, and then you add in all of the other horse shit surrounding Clone Wars. I mean, oh god. Oh. So there's the banking union just being scuzzy as hell the entire war. And refusing to pick a side. The Trade Federation played both sides a little bit. Were as successful at it as the banking clan. The political landscape of the Clone Wars was a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah. Okay, would you like to know how many combatant groups are listed in the Clone Wars on Wikipedia?
Sure.
The Galactic Republic, the Galactic Empire. Okay, those two are obvious.
Yep.
The Jedi Order, the Sith, secretly.
Yep.
Also obvious. Freedom's Sons, the Wookiee Warriors, the Chiss Ascendancy, the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the Sith, again. Okay, I think it's got it split by sides. So,
yeah, it's...
The Death Watch, the Zygerian Slave Empire, and the Grisk Hegemony.
Yep. Complete clusterfuck.
And, I mean, really, who won the Clone Wars?
Palpatine.
Yeah.
Which, I want to point something out here, okay? I want to point something out here. That was his plan, right? The Clone Wars was his plan to take control of the Republic, turn it into a new Sith Empire, with him as Emperor. And he did this by putting things into motion and manipulating people from the background on both sides, got himself elected Chancellor, manipulated fucking Jar Jar into giving him emergency powers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There is only one reason that plan worked.
The Jedi are stupid.
No. That plan worked because the writer said so.
Well, yeah, that too.
That would... everybody's like, oh, it talks about the Machiavellian conspiracies of the modern world, right? Oh, it's all just about, arms manufacturers promoting... No. Everybody who thinks there's some grand conspiracy, regardless of what that grand conspiracy is in the real world, has never been a project manager.
Yeah.
You can't get anybody to keep their mouth shut. Or get anybody to do their job.
I'm not going to bring in any real-world politics in this, but...
Yeah, I've been being vague on purpose.
But yeah, and the whole plan, and then of course, also, he's in power for about 20 years before...
And then he gets punked by some twink with one hand. And
yeah.
his dad, who was working for him and then betrayed him to join with the one-handed twink.
Okay, this is a slight off-topic, but it's still Star Wars related.
Yeah.
Palpatine's plans are dumb. I mean,
absolutely.
I've ranted about the Death Star before, but...
And then he built a second one.
Yeah. The
first... A bigger one!
The first Death Star, which, again, if they had taken the resources of that first Death Star and put it into a fleet of Star Destroyers, and especially if they had focused on the TIE Defender program...
Oh my god, if the TIE Defender program had actually gotten anywhere, the rebellion would have died. Period. I'll be honest, the governor of... Oh god, what was that planet's name?
Which one?
Ezra's. I think it started with a T? I don't remember, but her fucking up and blowing up that refinery to kill one Jedi saved the rebellion.
Well, there was two things that saved the rebellion. There was that, and there was Grand Admiral Thrawn not being able to get the funding to focus on the...
He didn't get the funding to focus on that program because she blew the thing
nope,
up.
That is yes. Not... Nope.
Yeah. Who has watched the series more recently?
Who has read the Thrawn books?
The books don't matter.
Okay, let me explain what actually caused him to not get the funding. There was an issue with Minox at one of the transport stations, sending resources to where they were building the Death Star. Thrawn had a bet with one of the people involved in the creation of the Death Star, one of the high-ups on it, that he could solve the problem in a certain amount of time, and if he did, he would get a fraction of the Death Star's funding for his TIE Defender program. He did not succeed in the required time, so he did not get the funding for his Defender program.
And in Rebels, her blowing that refinery up had a direct impact on the factory. Because he comes back and looks at her and goes, your incompetence has basically caused them to lose all faith in the Defender program. We have lost our funding.
I wonder, I'd have to check timelines. It's possible that that incident in Rebels happened before the Thrawn book, and Thrawn was trying to get his Defender program reinstated in the Thrawn book.
It's possible, but they have a very terse conversation because, well, you just killed Thrawn's baby, basically.
And the program that would have... TIE Defenders are terrifying.
The TIE Defender Elite was the scariest thing I have ever seen in the Star Wars universe.
Especially because, do you know how many TIE ships actually have hyperspace drives?
I think there's only 3 models.
The Defender has a hyperspace, and I think that may be the only one. Does the Phantom?
I don't. There's that one assault ship that's classified as a TIE, even though it's not a TIE.
Oh yeah, there's the TIE.
But yeah, it's basically an assault shuttle, and it's classified as a TIE, but it's got a drive, but it's not really a TIE fighter.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember its title off the top.
Yeah,
I used to know the ships a lot better when I played X-Wing, but...
And we've gone quite a ways off topic, but it is the natural continuation of the jackassery that was the Clone Wars. Let's get a little back on into the right time era, at least. I mean... Again, Palpatine's plans are stupid. And really, the only reason they ever work is because the writers say they do. It is... They try to play him off as this really smart, clever con man who plays the long game. But none of his shit would work.
I will grant that I think that the Clone Wars and how things played out worked, or would have worked, but there was that factor of needing certain things to fall into place, like needing a complete and utter idiot put in a position where they could be responsible for Palpatine getting emergency power.
Yeah, and, well, that part is less about needing an idiot so much as needing somebody you can manipulate. Jar Jar was easily manipulated. That's why he used him. If Jar Jar hadn't been there, he would have found some other fucking idiot in the Senate.
Thought Kaiju was going to fall off the bed.
She's a good dog. And a fuzzy little dumbass.
But yeah, the whole point of the Clone Wars, there is a certain amount of sense to that from the standpoint of an evil mastermind.
Yeah.
You create two armies fighting against each other, and you use that to fuel...
tensions, the overarching problem with that is twofold. One, again... You've clearly never been a project manager if you think that's going to work. Because, direct segue into two, there are way too many moving parts. And the fact that the major critical element of the plan was the clones. And their biochips. And that element of it came so tenuously close to being discovered. How many different times?
Yeah. And of course, the other problem with the Clone Wars as an evil mastermind plan, completely disregarding the cost in lives because, okay, evil mastermind doesn't care about lives.
Yeah, evil mastermind doesn't care about lives. We care about lives, and it was fucked up, but Palpatine doesn't.
The amount of resources burned on that war,
furthermore, it's the even before the Clone War itself, because he was setting the pieces up before that. Like, he went from, was he even a senator in Episode 1 yet, or was he still just a fucking Naboo dignitary? So you've got a guy. Either way, you've got a guy from this backwater planet who's like, hey, I'm going to create a trade dispute here. That'll get the attention of the Jedi, which I need here because reasons, TM, I don't know. How we get from Episode 1 to the Clone Wars makes no sense.
He was a senator at the start of the...
Okay. But he was still from Naboo. He was a Naboo senator.
Yeah.
I don't... There's going to be some neckbeards in the comments. They're going to be like, well, it doesn't make sense to you because you don't understand his brilliance. No, there is no brilliance. He's a fucking idiot. The plan he initiated in Episode 1 should not in any way, shape, or form have catapulted him to where it did.
And especially because, again, there were so many points that it could have fallen apart.
I mean, okay... There is no way in hell he could have manipulated things well enough to guarantee that the Gungan would get involved.
And also, his plan... okay. I will grant that he was clever enough to integrate new things into his plan. I mean, there's no way his plan could have actually counted on Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, couldn't have counted on Anakin Skywalker. Anything that happened on Tatooine, he could not have possibly planned for.
Yeah. I mean, the only way his plan could have accounted for Anakin Skywalker is if he was responsible for Anakin Skywalker being born.
Which he did claim in a deleted scene, but just because he claimed it doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
It's a Palpatine.
Which also, if he is responsible for Anakin Skywalker being born, it would explain why he is supposedly fatherless. Because supposedly, Anakin Skywalker does not have a father.
Right.
Supposedly he was born of the Force.
Exactly. And the deleted scene was Palpatine talking about how he reached out through the Force to blah, 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 blah. Which is stupid.
I knocked up your mama through the Force. I use a big old Force stick and just...
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We might be unleashed, but there's still a line. Wow.
Big old Force stick.
I'm going to smack you with a Force stick in a minute. Anyway. None of Palpatine's plans... Also... Okay. Palpatine had, to the best of my knowledge, no agents on that Naboo starship. The one that broke the blockade. He wasn't there. I believe he was still, at that point, either still on Naboo or back on Coruscant. I don't remember which, but I know he wasn't on that ship, right? He was not on that ship. He did not have any agents on that ship.
That we know of.
If he had a fucking agent on the ship, they would have totally told us as part of the narration.
It was a secret agent. You're not thinking of how clever Palpatine is. He had agents everywhere because he was a genius mastermind.
Are you done? Are you done being stupid? All right. He had nobody on that ship, so he had no way of manipulating where the ship went. So let's pretend for a moment he did create Anakin. He didn't, but we'll just pretend he did. How the balls could he possibly have manipulated the situation enough to put that Naboo ship on that Tatooine planet?
It's plans within machinations and a whole giant burrito of plot.
This burrito is rancid.
It happened because the writers said it happened that way. That's how much of a genius Palpatine is. Palpatine is a Star Wars writer.
Get out.
Palpatine reached through dimensions to write the script for the...
I mean, he's about as competent as a lot of the Star Wars writers I've seen. Listen, I love Star Wars. You all know this. The writing is weak as shit. Every time I start feeling bad about my own writing, I'll go look at some of the script writing for various Star Wars properties and feel better about myself.
Somehow. Or actually, no, sorry. It's not a gas of surprise. It's a... Somehow, Palpatine has returned.
Yeah.
I mean, that line was literally said.
Multi-billion-dollar franchise. Like I said, I feel way better about my own writing now.
It makes me feel better about the idea of trying to get into writing comics.
Right? Oh, God. So... Fuck. So we've got a plan that shouldn't have fucking worked, and only worked because the writer said so. We've got 2 slave armies. One of them is inherently more fucked up than the other.
I mean, which is more fucked up, honestly?
The clone's definitely more fucked up.
I disagree.
Well, you're allowed to be wrong.
They are both thinking, sapient beings that were created for the purpose of killing each other.
The plot surrounding the clones makes it more fucked up. The fact that they spent the Clone Wars doing what they were taught to do, which was follow orders and fight the droids for the Republic. And in the moment of Order 66, the last vestiges of their free will were taken from them.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Tell me that's not more fucked up than the droids.
Having to turn on people that they had been comrades in arms with, and in many cases even considered friends.
And not even getting a choice in the matter because that chip bypassed all of it.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in Clone Wars Season 7 how much Rex fought to not straight up kill Ahsoka. Not to ignore his inhibitor chip, but to give her the chance to get the fuck away.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's completely fucked up. And that is why the clones are more fucked up than the droids. Don't get me wrong, I'm not giving the droid army a pass here. Having a droid army is fucked up too.
At least in a world where droids have sapience.
Sapience and sentience, yeah. And we know they do. They feel fear. They feel joy.
They feel some semblance of pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might not be how we understand pain, but droids feel pain.
Jabba has a droid torture palace. Why? Because those droids can be tortured.
Yeah.
You would not have a droid torture palace if droids can't be tortured.
Droids can feel love.
And in Legends, at least one droid was connected to the Force.
Yeah, I mean, in Solo, L3, in her way, loved Lando.
Yeah.
And Lando loved her right the hell back.
Yep.
Which also just makes it that much more fucked up that Han more or less stole his ship from him.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they were both cheaters at cards, so...
Han cheated better.
Yeah.
Kaiju is adorable.
She is. And no one is rubbing her belly, and this is bullshit.
Truly, we are both monsters. So we've talked about the fucked up nature of droids, the fucked up nature of the clones, the extra fucked up nature of the clones, and the plot surrounding them. How Palpatine is a fucking moron whose plans only work because the writers said it worked.
And there's another aspect we need to talk about.
I wonder if it's the aspect I'm thinking of.
The Jedi?
Yeah! Okay, so we have never adequately had a property explore this in Star Wars. This is not something Star Wars has freely admitted, to the best of my knowledge. The Jedi being pressed into service as generals. And you have to understand, if you held the rank of knight or higher, period, you're a general. The Padawans held the rank of commander. These are literal peacekeepers and children. We have already listed off the 3 Jedi who are qualified for this job. There is absolutely zero reason for the rest of the Order to be pressed to the service like that.
Especially the Padawans. In fact, also think about it for a moment. How does the Jedi Order recruit?
They take children.
They don't quite kidnap them, but they basically kidnap them. And these children are taken to the Jedi Order, where they are supposedly taught to be peacekeepers. And then when this rolls around, all of these children suddenly started becoming soldiers. And, I mean, that's one of the reasons that Ahsoka is so terrifying. I mean,
she was forged by the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and she was forged by the Clone Wars, and she had some of the best saber fighters ever as her instructors.
So everybody gets taught by Yoda. And then she had Kenobi and Skywalker. And for all of Skywalker's faults, I have already stated the man was a warrior.
And the thing is, she learned well from both of them. She learned from Kenobi better than Anakin ever did.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we see in the Kenobi series that Anakin was always too focused on the victory. He was too focused on... He was too short-sighted, and he was too aggressive. Whereas Obi-Wan was always a very calculating, defensive fighter who took the right moment I mean, he could spend an entire fight losing, and in that last moment turn it around.
And he had, repeatedly.
Yeah, and Ahsoka learned the best aspects of both. There is a reason that when Ahsoka went toe-to-toe with Vader in Rebels, she was winning until she realized who he was.
Yeah. I will remind everybody, she took down Maul as a teenager. She beat him. Oh, well, that's not that big of a deal, Maul. I mean, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you clearly have only seen episode 1 if that's your takeaway, because... And even in episode 1, he took out a Jedi Knight.
Yeah, in episode 1, he took out Qui-Gon Jinn. He was giving Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan together a run for their money.
Yeah.
Darth Maul was a monstrous combatant. His weakness, his real weakness as a Sith, was he was not all that strong with the Force outside of combat, and he was too cocky and aggressive. And
traits he did not have for the battle with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
He had been training up his Force abilities through training his brother. Because you learn, when you teach, you also learn. And by this point, he was much calmer, more calculating.
By this point, he had taken control of... Or wait, no, did he take... Was it...
He had control of Mandalore.
Yeah, he had control of Mandalore. I couldn't remember if he took control of Mandalore in Rebels or Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
Yeah.
He took control of Mandalore in Clone Wars, and Ahsoka took him on one-on-one and beat him. And yes, there's a part of that where he was more focused on escape than fighting her, but it doesn't matter. She played him. She took him down.
Yeah, she could have killed him there, but he ended up getting away.
No. He did. He got away later. She beat him, and they threw him in a box.
My timeline's a little screwed up, so...
She took him down at the end of the Clone Wars. And the only reason he got away is because they let him out when Order 66 got called. Because they needed the distraction.
That's right. They needed the distraction, and his distraction was crashing the ship.
I mean, it worked. But yeah, she took him down. She beat him. He didn't get away. Like, that's not a peacekeeper at that point. That's not even a warrior anymore. You're just a straight up fucking operator.
Yeah, like I say, Ahsoka Tano is... I think she is the second most terrifying saber wielder in canon Star Wars.
Who's your first?
Mace Windu.
Yeah, I can see that. Mace was pretty terrifying with his saber style.
And, I mean, honestly, a real fight between Mace in his prime and Ahsoka in her prime would be something to see from very far away.
Very far away. Yes, hello, Kaiju. Yes, that has a flavor. Your dog is weird.
Yes, she is.
So and to be clear here, just because the Clone Wars forced Ahsoka into the most terrifying force in the entirety of Star Wars, that doesn't negate the fact that it's fucked up that she was a child soldier.
Oh no, she is one of the most fucked up things to come out of the Clone Wars because she was a kid. She should never have become that. You know, it's... honestly, I'm going to draw a kind of an odd comparison here. But Ahsoka is very similar to Carl Grimes from The Walking Dead. She was forged by this. It became just part of who she is and the world she knows. So she doesn't really...
Yeah.
Up until she becomes like an adult. Like the point we see her in Mandalorian,
Well,
she really doesn't know how to be a person.
Rebels.
Well, even in Rebels, she's still a soldier.
Yeah.
She starts getting there, and it's by the time we see her in Mandalorian, and then when she shows up in Book of Boba Fett, that we really see her being a person. I mean, her interactions with Luke.
Rex. The Clone Wars, when the Empire was done with the clones, they basically just threw them away.
Yeah, a few of them became stormtroopers, but for the most part, they were just cast aside.
Basically an entire species that was fabricated.
Yeah,
And then discarded.
I mean, in that one episode of Kenobi, we see the clones sitting there.
Yep.
By the way, do you know if it was actually Temuera Morrison?
I believe it was.
I'll have to double check that, but
I'm pretty sure it was. Not surprisingly, they've got him more or less focused on Star Wars projects these days. So he would have been on hand.
yeah. I mean, especially because it was probably filming about the same time that Book of Boba Fett was. They were just like, hey, come over here for like 2 minutes.
Oh, also put on this wig and beard. They're really getting their money's worth out of that Tatooine set, I'm just saying.
If only they were actually getting their money's worth out of the special effects department. Which is actually not the fault of the special effects people. Like I said, not the fault of the special effects people. Everything I am hearing, the working special effects for Disney is...
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah. But that's a little off topic.
Yep.
There's 3 clones in particular that really kind of hammer this home a little bit. And we see that in Rebels. And it's Rex, Wolf, I can never remember the crazy one's name.
No, there's a couple others that really hammer it home.
Those 3, though, are the big ones we spend a lot of time with.
There's at least one other that has to be referenced for how fucked up it is. I can't remember his name, but the marksman from Bad Batch.
Crosshair. Yeah, Crosshair...
Good soldiers follow orders.
But that's even more fucked up because he eventually chose it.
Yeah, the fact that... the fact that we find out that he knew about the chip and his chip had been disabled.
Yeah.
And he chose because good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah, that's fucked up. But, I mean, that's... I don't really care about him for this purpose. I absolutely don't care about him for this purpose because... God, what is this? Gregor?
I think so, yeah. Gregor sounds right.
Gregor, Wolf, and Rex. Where do we find them?
On a backwater planet in an old ATTE.
Trying to mostly keep their damn heads down so that the Empire leaves them alone.
Also, yes, the veteran clone trooper was Temuera Morrison.
Yeah. It's just... Because here's the really fucked up part. Yeah, the Clone Wars were over, and by this point, you know, the Republic had become the Empire, and the Empire had been in operation for a while now. I want to say, yeah, it would have been like 15 years by that point. 15, 16 years that they had been the Empire. And why were they on a backwater keeping their head down? Because they were still considered property. And at any time, the Empire could decide to either reclaim their property or properly dispose of their property.
Yeah, at the point we see them, it would have been about...
it was like 5 or 4 BBY.
What season was it we run into them?
I don't remember.
Because it's a little bit later. I want to say it's like season 4.
I don't remember.
So, Rebels runs from 5 BBY and actually ends in 0 BBY. It ends just before the Battle of Endor.
Or 4 or 3 BBY would be my guess.
I'd say more like 2, but yeah. Any which way. Somewhere in there. I could find out exactly if I really cared to, but I'm not.
There is no element of the Clone Wars that is not fucked up. I mean, I'm going to recap again. We got 2 slave armies.
We got 2 slave armies.
One of which is given the illusion of choice and then have it cruelly taken away, forcing them to turn on friends and colleagues.
And children.
And children.
We have child soldiers.
Child soldiers and peacekeepers who are now military commanders. We got machinations within machinations, none of which would fucking work that way unless the writers said so. The fucked up, disparate, broken, multiple layers of the political clusterfuck that was the Clone Wars and everything surrounding it. I mean, this is the era of strife and unrest that gave rise to Cad Bane. He was an accomplished bounty hunter before the Clone Wars, but his activities during the Clone Wars propelled him up to legend. He raided the capital Citadel successfully. Holy shit! And he was able to do it because there were so many layers of intrigue and the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing and just all the general chaos and clusterfuckery on Coruscant during the Clone Wars. And I want to again stress the grand conspiracy of Darth Sidious would not work in any real world.
Well, you don't get it. He was brilliant and he planned for every contingency.
Except apparently some twink with one hand.
No, actually, the contingency he didn't plan for is... And I mean...
Okay, you mean Vader turning on him?
The contingency he didn't plan for...
You mean the contingency that every Sith Lord has been planning for since the days of the original Sith Empire?
Yeah. The contingency he didn't really plan for was Vader having a change of heart.
I mean, fuck the change of heart. Every Sith, since time immemorial, since before the Rule of Two, which, by the way, is also stupid, but that's another topic entirely, has planned for their inevitable, for the inevitability of their apprentice killing them and taking over.
Or trying to.
And if you plan for it properly, it's try to. Because your apprentice gets the shit kicked out of them and probably killed. No, he didn't even... And I mean, the way Vader got him... He just picked him up and hefted him over.
Oh, but you don't get it. That was actually also all part of his plan, because his real master plan was the Final Order.
I'm not even dignifying that with a response.
The worst part is there is actually a book series that kind of tries to play into like him having these plans for the fall of his empire and creating the First Order and that leading into the Final Order and all that.
The problem is, you can write it into the books all you want, but it ain't what we saw on the fucking movie screen. And it ain't what we saw on the fucking movie screen because J.J. Abrams is a fucking hack!
Star Wars, at least the Skywalker saga, should have stayed 3 movies.
I'm actually even okay with the prequels.
Except the prequels are where we see that Palpatine's whole plan makes no sense and could not work and is stupid as hell.
I mean, does any of his plans in the fucking original trilogy even really work either? No, he creates 2 super weapons that both get blown the fuck up! Basically, every Star Wars movie we see just doubles down on the fact that Palpatine is a fucking moron!
And also, if we accept the idea that Palpatine was actually secretly pulling the strings of the First Order, that means that Palpatine was also responsible for Starkiller Base, which gets blown the fuck up.
And the fact that Starkiller used to be Elam is just rude. Like, that's a middle finger if ever there was one. God, fucking... So in closing, Clone Wars are fucked up.
The Clone Wars are really fucked up, and slave armies fighting each other is also really fucked up.
Child soldiers, super fucked up.
Super fucked up.
Making peacekeepers who rely on violence as the last resort into soldiers and generals. Very fucked up. Especially when, again, a good chunk of them are children. Hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. It's just a thought. And lastly, the grand conspiracy of Darth Sidious would not work. You want to know how I know it would not work?
Because you've been a project manager?
Well, without getting into too specific a detail here, there is a conspiracy in the news lately that's kind of continually getting pulled more and more apart with every passing day. And no one involved with it is keeping their mouth shut. Because nobody involved in a conspiracy keeps their mouth shut. As soon as your conspiracy is more than like 3 people, it's done.
The only way you can keep a conspiracy quiet at large scale is if you have either, like, cult-level loyalty.
That still doesn't help you.
It can.
But it doesn't.
Or you have things so well masked that no one knows that someone else is pulling the strings.
Which the Clone Wars did not. How many times did Palpatine have to go out as Darth Sidious in person in order to deal with crap?
Or even...
Nobody's gonna notice that the Chancellor of the fucking Republic is missing in that time frame? Really?
Or even how many times he has to talk to Dooku or
you're telling me that in all of that there wasn't some bored comms technician flipping through channels on Coruscant and stumbling across one of those communications, or going, "Hey, that's a weird encryption coming out of the Capital Citadel.
That's a weird encryption coming out of the Chancellor's office.
Hold on, let me play with this. Unencrypt. Okay, I cracked the encryption because I'm a comms technician. This is literally my job. Oh crap! Like, and then you'll have the people who are like, well, you just killed anybody who. No. Do you want to know the fastest way to get your conspiracy found out? Start dropping bodies.
The only way that dropping a body works is if you ensure 110% with absolute utter certainty that you dropped this body before they had a chance to reveal anything they saw, even the slightest bit, to anyone.
And that don't work, especially when you start dropping more than one, which I'm sorry. Okay, to keep the conspiracy quiet, Sidious would have had to have killed a stupid number of people. It just doesn't work. It's dumb. It doesn't work.
Well, and especially because, okay, we'll go to our comms tech. Our comms tech sees this, and the first thing the comms tech's probably actually going to do is, instead of encrypting it, is be like, this is a bit of an odd encryption coming out of the Chancellor's office.
Hey, boss!
Yeah, hey, boss, check out this encryption coming out of the Chancellor's office.
See if you can crack that. That's a separatist code.
Yeah, this isn't one of our normal encryptions. And they're going to be like, this is a separatist code. So now they're also going to be bringing in intelligence, who's going to be like, okay, we've got a separatist code here that we're trying to crack.
Use this key. It didn't quite work, but I tweaked the key, and we're in. What is... And that... You're seeing what I'm seeing, right? Like, I'm not, hallucinating right now, right?
And, I mean, of course, whenever
now you've got 2 other people in that room going, yeah, we see it too.
And, of course, Palpatine is always wearing the hood and being all, creepy.
Okay, but, You compare nose down with a voice analysis, and it's coming out of his fucking office. Doesn't take a rocket scientist at that point. So yeah, Clone Wars, super fucked up. Do you have anything in closing?
I don't think so. That's it for this week.
If you like what we do, please give us a like, follow, rating, all that nonsense on your favorite podcatcher.
You can also...
Fuck! We're professionals!
You can also support us on Patreon for special bonus content, including maybe deleted scenes, because we are fucking up right and left, and episodes a week early, or tip us on Ko-fi. You can find those and our social media platforms and Discord server in the show notes.
Also be sure to give our friends some love. Who the fuck is it?
Whoever the next person to send us a promo is, because I've got feelers out for like a dozen, and so far no one sent me one.
Welcome to Chatsunami, a variety podcast that talks about topics from gaming and films to streaming and general interests.
Previously on Chatsunami, we discussed Game of the Decade, Deadly Premonition, the romantic thriller, Birdemic, and listen to us get all sappy as we discuss our top 5 Christmas films.
If that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and all good podcast apps. As always, stay safe,
Stay awesome, and most importantly,
stay hydrated.
Last, but certainly not least, we want...
Fucking hell!
Last, but certainly not least, we want to give a quick shout out to our supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi, especially these idiots.
Random Warrior and Rain. And Athen Mortis, who is still banned.